Okay, we're live. Hi, everyone. I'm Jill Harani, the VP of Marketing at Metazoa. Welcome to the Reset Button, where we chat with change makers and status quo shakers in the Salesforce ecosystem about getting ahead, staying motivated, and moving society forward. In this episode of the Reset Button, which is called What the Ecosystem Has Taught Us About Adapting to the New Normal, features Rick Gian, who is the Area Vice President of Customer Success at Salesforce. Rick has 25 years of experience focusing on technology to drive strategic business programs for clients around the globe. For the past 12 years, Rick has led a variety of teams supporting the growth and success of Salesforce customers. Rick has also a deep passion for causes such as Leukemia and Lymphoma Society and Year Up. Excited to hear about those. So thank you so much for being here, Rick.
Hey, it's my
Welcome.
pleasure, Jill. How are you today?
Good. I'm doing well. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Absolutely, Jill. So really excited to speak to the audience today. Again, thanks for having me. In summary, I've kind of grown up in the technology industry as it went from the very end of the mainframe period, which probably shouldn't say that, kind of dates myself, but went from mainframe into the heyday of client server with clients spending gobs of money on infrastructure. And I just ran out of gas running those kinds of projects. So it was a breath of fresh air when I came into Salesforce around 2008. And I was privileged to watch kind of client server exit and then the dawn of SaaS. And I truly mean the dawn of SaaS because
Yeah.
back then, it took us literally a dozen meetings to convince customers, what is this thing called the cloud? Like, what are you talking about? And there's no way I'm giving my data to some public entity. And who is Salesforce? Like, do you do SFA? I've got a service solution here. Why are you even here? All these kinds of things. It was a great privilege to watch kind of the industry grow up. And now we have, your amazing company, Metazoa, and thousands of companies all over the world participating in this multi-billion-dollar ecosystem. So I just feel like that's been a huge privilege. And last couple of years here at Salesforce, I have been on the services side of the house, doing what I'm sure many of you do, which is sell and then oversee the delivery of services. And then also I've had a variety of customer success roles.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. So you also, as I mentioned in the beginning, have some side passions, which I know I'm very close to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society myself. But tell me a little bit about those, and especially Europe. I've never heard of Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Jill, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, it's an organization that actually it's got a fairly broad mandate. They look at funding research and funding programs to eliminate blood cancers. And some of you may know there's a lot of different blood cancers out there, so that's a pretty broad thing. And they have a broad mandate. They work with thousands of hospitals, research facilities, universities, doctors all over the world, not only to fund specific drugs. There are drugs that they fund themselves 100% start to finish, which as you probably know is a very expensive thing. But they also will work to make the avenues available to those that need it and maybe either less privileged or not have access to certain drugs and therapies and treatments, so they do all those things. Their biggest event of the year is something called the Light the Night Walk. Literally, you grab a lantern and walk to raise money for the facility. So it's something that I got involved with at Salesforce purely because, honestly, I'm from the New York City area. I'm in New Jersey. And our San Francisco office was raising tens of thousands of dollars, and New York was only at 8,000. I said, we cannot have that. It's a little East-West Coast rivalry. We did get up to six figures between New York, Boston, and many other East Coast offices, and eventually multi-million dollars. So it was great.
Nice.
Yeah, Europe is an amazing organization that gives individuals in underprivileged societies the ability to access secondary school at a different level and be able to be trained up to fulfill jobs that the different economies need, Salesforce being one of them, the Salesforce ecosystem. So it's a great chance to work with these amazing teenagers and teenager plus, to coach them, to talk to them, to give them some ideas, and then just watch these amazing individuals blossom into jobs that they probably didn't have access to beforehand. So that is an organization. If you're not familiar with it, I encourage you to look it up on the web. And there's Europe organizations in every major city, at least across the U.S. and beyond.
Nice. I think it's really cool that Salesforce has this 1-1-1 model. And so all of you at Salesforce are encouraged to spend 1% of your time doing philanthropies. Is that true? Is that what you guys do there?
It is. It's actually in the founding charter of the company as well. And
Yeah.
I know, I think I know Jill Metazoa's looked at it. So many companies have looked at it now, but it's a great way just to build giving back to our communities right into the charter of every company.
Right, right. And I think it's also very cool that Salesforce, I think the ISV partners, everybody in the ecosystem looks at Salesforce as, the model to follow. So it definitely has trickled into so many different companies, and so many people are giving their time. I love it. It's fantastic. So you have been with Salesforce for 12 years, did you say?
12, 13, who's counting? Lucky
Okay.
number 13.
So you said that you were on two sides in Salesforce. What were you doing exactly when you first after you started at Salesforce? Did you stay in customer success the whole time, or what were you doing back then?
Yeah, so Jill, I started in services, literally hands on the keyboard, configuring solutions. It was for a biotech company in Boston, I still remember, in Cambridge, where I joined the company and within a week was shipped out there.
Oh,
And
wow.
even though I was supposed to be leading projects and things like that, they said, no, you're going to go learn our technology inside out, upside down. That's the most effective way to be able to sell it, the most effective way to be able to oversee teams that will deliver it. So that's what I did. Configured business processes. It was a lot of fun. I learned a ton in that first year. The first year, honestly, a little bit rough too,
Yeah.
because it was a new model for me and a new way of thinking and learning. But after that first year, it's a little bit like riding a bike.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time in services, 6, 7 years. And since then, I've been on the customer success side of the house.
Nice. So let's just jump in here and talk a little bit about the topic, which is, how things kind of changed, and how, the pandemic has influenced some of these changes. So what was it like for you and your team when COVID hit, when we were like in lockdown and everybody was now having to experience this new normal?
Yeah. So, Jill, it was challenging for all of us, everybody in the audience, everybody here. It also took on a different dimension of challenge when we had to look at, here at Salesforce, I have a global team, and we had to look at the different theaters all over the world and adjust our thinking to each. Right now, as we know, unfortunately, in India and many parts of Latin America, there are some pretty big challenges for us here in the U.S. That not to that degree of not quite as drastic, but that's what happened a year ago, 3/4 of a year ago. So we had to operate in different ways, but no matter what, there were tremendous work pressures as we were dealing with, some people got sick, or some people had family members who were sick, or were concerned about getting sick. And so that came with a variety of needs and challenges that we had to make sure we took care of our employees for. There were family pressures in the marketplace. There were inequities in the marketplace as well. Some employees and some of our customers and partners had access to things that others did not.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as its whole kind of system, I think what we at Salesforce tried to do our best to do was come up with a broad set of things that we need to do to help our employees and partners and customers, but at the same time be adaptable to each geography as things changed.
Right. Yeah, that definitely was a big hit. And I'm sure, you guys were all getting together and trying to figure out some of those best practices and ways to deal with everything. So how did it impact your employees with regards to, I feel like sometimes it was challenging to feel connected, to stay connected with your team. So what did you do to keep your employees connected?
Yeah, so what we did probably ironically had a longer term negative effect, but we never really used probably the digital channels that were available to us, Jill. So, if we had meetings, cameras weren't really on, things like that. But what we already all of a sudden found was that there was not going to be any human connection if we didn't use these digital tools the way they were built. And as companies like Zoom and everyone else, they really, really upped their game throughout the course of the pandemic. So we actually probably connected more face to face as a team than we ever did, because we put connections on the calendar just for the sake of having them there, no topic. And it kind of turned into, at times we were talking about things that were challenging us and bothering us and things we were worried about, and turned into a really nice session where we didn't talk, well, it might have been work related, but often it wasn't. It was just about life, and we were all trying to figure out how to deal with these things. So I think that the digital connection really helped us, even though these days they're saying, hey, don't tone down the video. You don't have to be on video all the time. But back in the beginning of this epidemic, it was super critical to creating that human connection.
Yeah, I feel like having that connection and being on camera also made me, in a way, it makes you sort of get up and get ready for the day, because it was a little bit depressing sitting at home, and you can find yourself sitting at your computer from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. and you're barely even got anything to eat or drink or brush your teeth. So it was a nice way to, like, okay, reminds me I have to get up, I have to get ready, I have to be presentable on camera. So I like that too, for sure.
Yeah, and I think, Jill, what it taught all of us is that there can be a new normal.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes.
So there was kind of the way we were before the pandemic, and now, very clearly there's going to be new ways of thinking about these things, and it's okay. We got
Right.
used to them over the last year.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, things are definitely going to change because of it. So, one of the things I recall back last March, was Salesforce quickly implemented Work.com. And that was kind of a wow, what is this new platform? So, can you talk a little bit about some of the things on the platform and what it was for, and how it helped in the pandemic?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I want to say about this is, so as I just said, we as a company, we were forced to change our thinking, right? Digital camera, all those things. But one of the most remarkable things I saw was uh, we had to develop and release a product that could help with the challenges of COVID. And we
Mm-hmm.
did it literally in 45, 60 days, which was unheard of for Salesforce. And that's not just to say, bragging about Salesforce was able to do something. I think it was more testament to the fact that the technology and the ability for teams to be agile, to scale, and move this fast are now there in the marketplace. I don't think we even realized that we could have done something like this.
Mm-hmm.
Our partners adapted. Our ISV partners built products as fast as we did. And so, kind of summarize where I'm going with this is, we had to release a product called Work.com out to the marketplace very, very quickly to react to contact tracing. There were various degrees of automated contact tracing technologies that were out there, but our development teams embraced the challenge and pushed something out to the market in record time. And the rest of the ecosystem responded, which was equally amazing, if not way more amazing. So that product, it was designed to be the contact tracing tool, and eventually became a vaccine management tool, which we can talk about as well. But getting that out the door as fast as we did presented benefits, of course, because there was technology for states, federal governments, international governments now to perform contact tracing, trying to get a handle on things. But at the same time, it presented challenges, because when you're moving at warp speed, is the literature out there? Do people fully understand all the features, functions, and documentation, and how to use them, and how to be best trained on them? We all adapted. We all learned about good versus the best, and good enough is enough to move forward. And where there are gaps, we just plugged them as fast as we could. But it was always important to keep that product moving forward. We still have to this day.
Right. Right. And so, ISV partners are still building apps for Work.com?
Work.com, vaccine management, there's a great ecosystem that's sprung up around this. And we all hope that the pandemic ends quickly for every country around the world. But what we also seen is that this kind of technology will have a use,
Mm-hmm.
right? Mass citizen benefits. Okay, it's got vaccine management around it now, but we now know how to serve massive populations of people in local, state, federal, country governments, and have scaled the platform and can meet those needs. So we think this will continue to evolve and just be used in different ways going forward.
Right. Right. So, what about your customers? Can you talk a little bit more about maybe some of the things that changed, and how you handled your customers, how you interacted with your customers? Did you find it challenging to kind of stay connected with them as well?
I think so. I think we all did. gone were the days where if you said to yourself, hey, I need to just build a bit of a relationship here, and I think we can make a breakthrough, we can achieve the outcomes the customer is looking for, but I got to get a couple hours and a good dinner together. I think those days were
Mm-hmm.
gone, and that was a key tool that all of us used. So again, we had to enhance our digital channels. We had to come up with new innovative programs that were fully digital. We combined on-site experiences, sending our clients different experiences, cheese tasting, whatever it was, with the digital channel to be able to bring all that together. And we also reimagined how we do our marketing events. So we went from this, mass get together of tens of thousands of people in any number of cities all over the world. That was out the door. We knew for at least 1 year. We're on 1 year and counting now as we speak. We had to reimagine those. So it's just taking advantage of the digital tools and channels available to us. And so I think, we did the best that we could. Our customers are giving us feedback that they feel connected to us. They understand our brand. They understand our products and capabilities. We continue to build relationships. Is it exactly the same as sitting next to somebody? No, but I think everybody in the world has really done a great job adapting to this new normal. And I do see it now continuing going forward in some hybrid model of you can be next to the person, but you can also do what we're doing right now and be as effective.
Right. Do you feel that it took more time to implement that type of interaction, or did it kind of just naturally happen and you didn't really have to spend so much time, getting in front of your customers or training your employees to be more connected?
No, I think it took some thinking, some adaptation. It took a month or two of trying it, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work. Um, even down to you probably remember people were really thinking about their home office setups and
Mm-hmm.
do I have the right equipment? Do I have an effective way to be able to communicate? So it took some time, but I think ourselves, our partners, our customers, everybody got there. Everybody got there,
Mm-hmm.
which was a testament to just resilience.
Right. I was super impressed when, we try to attend as many Dreamin' events as possible, and virtual Dreamin' hit right after we went into lockdown. And I was super impressed with this platform that kind of felt like you were at an event, but you weren't really at the event, and you still got some sort of like way to interact with people. It was kind of weird, kind of odd at first. I'll be honest with you, but it was kind of neat to see how quickly the ecosystem adapted, and Salesforce having TDX virtually, and Dream TX or Dreamforce virtually as well. Um, I loved it. I mean, I think it was really impressive. So yeah, I think it allows for people to be in other places even after this pandemic is over. Maybe I would like to attend some Dream event in India, but it's not feasible for me. But now I think there's going to be a way for us to have both, best of both worlds, be able to attend these events virtually, but also attend them in person too. So that's a really cool thing that I think will change. And so, what are some of the can you name some of the best practices, like for, I think everybody looks at Salesforce as, like I said before, as this company that they like to model their companies after. So are there tips or best practices, things that you would like to tell the audience how you go about, working with your customers, and, making sure that I know that you said you had things like you'd send things to them or have interactions with them, meet them. But what are some of the ones that you would point out as best practices?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to start on the employee side. If you take care of the employees are going to take amazing care of our customers. So we really double clicked on employees. We were very, very what's the right word, vociferous about understanding the sentiment of employees. Where are they having challenges? Um, uh, it could be technology challenges, it could be workplace challenges, whatever it was, and developing programs to really, really embrace the employee and make sure that we could do whatever we could to keep them moving forward. Not just from a work standpoint, but from a life standpoint as well. So we found once that piece was taken care of, the employees came up with all the great ways to work with our customers. Sure, there's digital engagement. A lot of it was frequency of engagement, right? There's a natural human tendency to say, oh, you know what? Like I could have been with my customer 4 or 5 times this week if it were live, because I just get in the car and go down the street, right? But all of a sudden, digital, that's down to once a week, once every 2 weeks. And you have to reverse that thinking. You know, actually, it's easier because you don't have to drive, you don't have to fly. You can be on there for half an hour every single day, right? So increasing the frequency of interaction led to maintenance/development of the relationship, which led to gaining the outcomes that both the customer and Salesforce was thinking about. So I think those are two of the biggest things that I would say.
Yeah, that's good. I like that because I totally understand what you're saying with regards to you feel like, okay, I've touched base with this customer, and you sort of then fade away for a little bit because you're not meeting, doing things in person. And so it's easy to sort of forget, oh, wow, it's been a week since I've touched base or 2 weeks since I've touched base. So that's a really good point. So what's happening with Salesforce with regards to going back? Have you all talked about going back to the office and being, start going in person? And what does that look like?
Yeah, so we've announced that we, as it's deemed to be safe by the local governments and then our facilities team, we are able to open up the offices. It's a reimagined experience. It's not. I think for many companies, I've spoken to a lot of friends and a lot of customers. It's not going to be quote unquote the way it was, where you had, let's say, a floor with 100 people on it. It's reimagined. So rather than a floor with 100 people, there's more social spaces. There's more accommodation for groups coming in on a point basis to meet, to align, whether with your customer internally, and then to continue from home as needed. We've been very flexible with our employees that would like to come back. We are looking now for volunteers, and we accommodate them in cohorts. Employees that might have been in the office don't want to come back. We say that's okay, right, as well. And we will accommodate those employees through all these new digital channels and different ways of working. So we see this very much as a hybrid. Our offices will continue to be very, very important. Just we have rethought them. Okay, and we're looking at using the space differently. So different parts of the world are able to go back, and different parts of the world are a little bit behind them still. But we'll continue to follow the local guidelines, and our folks will absolutely be in the office as soon as it's safe and reasonable.
And so do you have to plan, these cohorts? Would you be then saying, okay, this group is going to come in and meet today, and then this group will come in another day, or is it just everybody will be coming back, but maybe in a different way?
Yeah, so we got a little bit lucky in that our work.com product does things like scheduling, all the way down to elevators and those different things. So we're going to rely heavily on our product.
I was going to say the elevator, at the tower, you could just stand there in this huge crowd waiting for your elevator to be ready for you. And yeah, it's interesting to think of how that will change and how the scheduling will be very important so that you don't have a lot of people sort of crowded together in an elevator. But I
The
imagine,
elevator,
go ahead.
just say the elevator, it's about density, so it manages the density across the space. And we've had it out there for a bit now. It's been out there for a good October, November, December. So it's having great success, and you're absolutely right.
That's good. Yeah, I recently went to a Warriors game, and you could only have two people in the elevator. So it took forever to get to where, we were trying to get up to our seats, and it took forever to get to it because everyone had to follow the rules and, make sure that we were being safe. So yeah, it's a challenge. So
But it must have been nice to go to a game, right?
it
When's the
was
last
so
time?
nice to go to the game, not to derail this conversation, but there was testing in place. So every single person that entered the stadium they were all negative, at least at that moment, right? And
Right.
there were 3,000 seats sold out of 18,000-ish. So it felt very safe, and it was extremely fun to see a live game finally. It's been so long for me. So, yeah.
I'm jealous, Jill.
I know. I'm now my next one is a baseball game. I want to go to see the Giants
Nice.
play.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So what do you think? So you were talking about how Salesforce will have people, flexible where people can work from home and people can be in the office. Do you see this as sort of ongoing, even way past when we're beyond this pandemic? We're at a place now where everybody is safe, and we have herd immunity, or vaccines and all that stuff. Do you see Salesforce adopting a new model allowing for people to be remote?
I do. I do. I think, and we've announced that there's going to be 2 or 3 models that our employees can look at. And we're going to give, I think, everybody full flexibility to choose the model that they're comfortable with. You could go in occasionally, you could go into the office a lot, or you can go into the office not at all. And we're going to let the employee decide that. So, even when I talk to friends in my local community, now that we're getting out more and more and more and seeing people, they always ask what Salesforce is doing, and I ask them the same thing. And
Mm-hmm.
we're getting a lot of the same answers. And this is companies large and small, where they're reimagining their spaces. They don't expect as many people to come in long term, and it's just kind of the new normal. And that's, I think that's okay. There's been a lot of thought put into it already. A lot of smart people are looking at, exactly how do you solve these challenges and how do you reconfigure things and re-engineer things. And I think, fairly soon we're all going to say, this is great. I don't notice any difference to
Right.
the old way of doing things.
It sort of opens everything up for people with regards to looking for places that they want to live, even though maybe their office is in San Francisco.
Mhm.
um, I really like that. I worry though about these college students that are coming out of school and they want to be part of that big office environment like it used to be,
Yeah.
right? And so I think it's great that we have that flexibility. I just also hope that people feel safe enough to come back to work, come back to the office, and sort of have that good balance between the two.
Yeah, I agree. But, they say what necessity is the mother of invention. On that topic, our local high school here just opened. And what they said was they're going to put the freshmen in the building first because they want them to have that
Right.
experience, right, and be ready for next year so it's not completely new to them. So people come up with new problems. It would have, originally people would say, wait a minute, you can't just send one class back, right? Now they'll send all the classes back eventually, but starting with the freshmen. So people are coming up with things that we never even thought of before, and people adapt well, I think.
Right, they do. And there's I mean, because there's so many great tools to allow people to adapt, like
Mhm.
schools. Now is a good time to probably talk about vaccine cloud. So, I mean, obviously, orchestrating the distribution of vaccines had to be a huge challenge for many places, companies, trying to get out the vaccine. And I imagine in the very beginning, when the vaccines were available, um, it was kind of like, I don't know how many people are going to show up, how many people, maybe people were scheduling multiple places, so you didn't know if the number was true that you had folks registered. So talk to me a little bit about, maybe back up a little bit, tell me a little bit about Vaccine Cloud in general, like what the platform does, and then let's talk about some of those challenges.
Yeah, absolutely, Jill. So, and its core components. Hopefully, many of you or not hopefully, but I'm sure many of you have seen this firsthand. The core components to get an individual through the entire vaccine process. There's a registration process, sometimes pre-registration, sometimes at the moment registration. Then there's the scheduling, either 1 or 2 schedules, depending on the number of shots. And then there's the actual on-site experience, which needs to be managed as well. So you show up at the center, show your identification, and you're inoculated, so on and so forth, with a 15-minute wait period at the end. So that is, that kind of system is what Salesforce and our ecosystem set out to manage. And I'll say we were very pleasantly surprised when we first put this technology on the market. We knew there would be demand. We just didn't know exactly how much at what times. And so what we ended up finding is that there was tremendous demand. And it was very, very exciting to watch. We were able to, on the fly, take a look at our platforms and say, okay, well, this particular state or country is coming online. What are the needs going to be? What kind of volume can we expect? And it was an amazing thing to watch these municipalities be able to use the platform to execute on those 4 or 5 pieces that I mentioned, and eventually be able to get the vaccines and get the vaccines in their arms, which is what the goal was. So it's now happened to tens of millions. Sorry, it's now occurred for over tens of millions of citizens all over the world on our platform. It's something we're very humble and grateful to be able to help with.
That's great. And when Vaccine Cloud first came out, were there things that Salesforce sort of learned along the way as folks were using the platform, and has it evolved since then? Have any changes been made, or was it pretty solid to begin with?
I think it was very solid, but we certainly learned as millions or hundreds of thousands of people started using the platform. We learned about areas like scheduling. So scheduling is, it seems a little bit straightforward, right? There's the calendar, you take the slot, you're good.
Right.
But as you mentioned earlier, what if somebody is looking at multiple slots? What if they're not qualified? How do you battle contention? What if 3 people land on that same spot at the same time? So we felt a little bit lucky in that we had a solid solution, but we were able then to even further engineer things like scheduling and harden them more and evolve the features more, to the point where actually for our scheduling engine, we released a bunch of new features in just a few months as we saw what the marketplace was looking for, and we could iterate it quickly. And that's been the name of the game this last 9 months. You probably heard the theme kind of coming through from me. It was, hey, there's a solution, move fast, doesn't have to be perfect, but let's get it out there, iterate, listen to our consumers, listen to our customers, keep changing it. And even for us, we would do 3 releases a year. Here we were releasing functionality way before that. It was something new for us, but it was a lot of fun to watch.
It's impressive, very impressive. I mean, like you said, with just watching Vaccine Cloud be developed, Work.com, all these ISV partners jumping on and doing stuff and helping, it was super impressive. I think that was one of the things that, over the last year that has been exciting about this pandemic. I mean, it's kind of weird to say exciting, but it's neat to see how quickly people adapted, and companies like Salesforce, just super impressive with how quickly things came out. And yeah, so why don't you maybe take a couple of minutes to talk about anything that you would like to tell people in the ecosystem. I know when I met you, Rick, I met you at Accelerate. And one of the things I liked about that program was folks would come in from Salesforce and talk about different, styles, Salesforce ways of doing things, and different things that we could adopt as our own in our company. So do you have things that you want to share in the last few minutes here about, that you would say are tried and true and companies should really focus on?
Yeah. Thanks, John. I think the first thing that I want to mention in regards to that is the opportunity in this ecosystem right now is unparalleled, I think, in the technology industry. There is so much attention on supporting each other, creating amazing solutions. I mean, as we all know, there's tons of everything. There's tons of resource, tons of funding, tons of ideas, tons of communities, all built up around this ecosystem, all looking to make each other successful. As you mentioned, we met in the Accelerate cohort, which the whole goal of Accelerate was to allow our ISVs to continue to on the amazing trajectories that they're on, and get new ideas on how to build new products and bring new services to market. So I think that we're at a moment in this industry now, especially hopefully coming out of the pandemic for all countries very, very soon, where there's all this pent up kind of demand and pent up ideas, And I think we're going to see yet another rapid acceleration of products in the ecosystem, solutions in the ecosystem. I think new ISV companies are going to spring up. I think the ISVs that are there now are going to create all these new products, both related to the pandemic and not, because it's time and people have kind of been in a little bit of pause, and now there's going to be things ready to go. So I would just say take advantage of the moment. It seems like every 2 years we go through what was 15 years in the technology industry, in the SaaS industry that we all share. And I would say just to keep the foot on the gas pedal and use the entire ecosystem as much as you can. That's the other key.
Yeah, that's what I love about Salesforce too. I feel like you meet so many great people that are willing to share knowledge and help others in the ecosystem. It's such a great community, which is a good way for me to end actually, because my next session is going to be with Mike Creedon, who he's going to talk to us about how to build and grow with Salesforce Accelerate. So ISV partners that are tuning in right now, make sure you don't miss that one. That is July 6th at 10 a.m. And Rick, it was a pleasure to have you on today. And I really appreciate you talking to all of us. So thank you so much.
Jill, the pleasure was mine. It's always great to be here with you and the Metazoa team. Just an amazing company, and I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.